I was studying abroad in Germany when COVID-19 hit the United States.
Breaking news, after days in limbo, a cruise ship with at least 21 coronavirus patients finally docks. With more than 3,500 on board, the Grand Princess arrives at a California port, with all on board facing federal quarantine. Schools and universities suspend classes, while in Italy, a lockdown now placed on the entire country. So tonight, how to protect your family, the extra precautions for people in nursing homes.
At first, I had thought I would be able to weather it out in Germany. I had arrived in the country a month before the regular semester started, so I could start learning German and get accustomed to the new environment. Around the start of March, Germany put a curfew in place. Everyone was encouraged to stay quarantined, and lockdowns were starting up. My class, an intensive German language course, pivoted to online assignments. And my German university was optimistic that things would go back to normal soon. School would return to its regular schedule and the semester would start up in April.
To keep new cases from entering our shores, we will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days.
And at the time, nobody had answers. It was March 12th, 2020. We didn't know much about the disease yet. Maybe this whole coronavirus thing would blow over soon. After being given the option to leave, I decided to stay in Germany. Things were okay for the most part. I stayed inside my dorm room, did the worksheets that my German teacher sent out, checked the news, kept checking the news. But on the other hand, my entire family was in a different continent, and I was in a country where I didn't speak the language. Even before I went to Germany, I had been pretty shy. I didn't have any friends back at my university in the US. Most of my friends were people who I played Dungeons and Dragons with online. I had hoped to make friends in Germany, especially among the other international students. Instead, I was physically and emotionally isolated. In the 2 weeks that I had been in Germany, I hadn't made any friends yet. I was roommates with another American, and she didn't really care about the pandemic. She went out and occasionally would spend the night somewhere else. These things were a huge concern for me, so I walled myself off from her. The whole situation made me anxious and scared. Instead of reaching out to my other classmates, I buckled down. I worked on homework. I got a German bank account. I called my family often. Hell, I even bought a TV so I could play on my PS4 and watch stuff. And then I started watching this anime that I had always heard about. Neon Genesis Evangelion. If you know anything about Neon Genesis Evangelion, you might have some concerns right now, and I'll address those in a bit. But for the rest of you, Neon Genesis Evangelion is a Japanese animation that is considered a classic. It subverts the mecha, or robot fighting genre, which is usually aimed at children. The genre involves characters inside big robot suits who save the day by fighting giant monsters. Popular examples include Shogun Warriors, Mobile Suit Gundam, Full Metal Panic, Code Geass, and Gurren Lagann. The movie Pacific Rim is also a take on the genre. Instead, Evangelion deals with adult themes such as sexuality, trauma, depression, and existential dread. It also has pretty horrifying imagery such as blood, gore, and extreme mental distress.
Die with me.
If that's what you want, I'll die with you, Mama.
So a series like Evangelion was the perfect thing to start while being isolated in a foreign country during the start of a global pandemic. I'm gonna explain why using one of my favorite episodes, Rain After Running Away, which is called The Hedgehog's Dilemma in the English adaptation. This episode really dives into the personality of the anime's protagonist. Shinji Ikari, the main character, is a teenage boy who pilots an Evangelion, a giant biomechanical robot, to fight giant monsters called angels. He is a member of a military organization called NERV that is tasked with fighting off the angels. At the start of this episode, Shinji has decided to run away from NERV. This is for a few reasons. 1. Shinji was forced into joining NERV and piloting an Evangelion. Originally, Shinji did not want to fight the angels. He became an Evangelion pilot because there was an angel attacking and the only nearby pilot was severely injured from her previous fight with an angel. Shinji was also pressured by his father, the commander of NERV, to get into the Evangelion and fight. 2. Shinji's battle with the angels has taken a huge toll on him. These fights are life or death situations. If he loses, Shinji risks the destruction of the city, but also the world. 3. During these battles, Shinji often goes berserk. When he goes berserk, he stops caring about his own well-being and does everything it takes to kill the angels. Going berserk is a dangerous tactic. While effective, his psyche is damaged after he goes berserk. 4. There are consequences even when Shinji wins a fight. Some people are injured or killed during these battles. In the previous episode, one of Shinji's classmates, Toji Suzuhara, beats Shinji up. Toji's sister was seriously injured during one of the battles, and he blames Shinji for this. 5. Lastly, Shinji hates himself. He does not believe that he is cut out to be a pilot. We'll get into more detail about this later. Back to the episode summary. NERV needs him to keep piloting the Evangelion, or EVA, because their other pilot is injured. NERV finds where Shinji is hiding and drags him back to their headquarters. When he returns, Shinji's mentor and field commander, Major Masato Katsuragi, has a tense conversation with him. To give some context, Shinji had been living with Masato ever since he became a pilot. Although Masato is his commanding officer, she cares for Shinji and tries to look out for him, unlike his father. Shinji lost his mother at a young age, and Masato tries to fulfill that role as a parental figure throughout this series. She genuinely worries about his safety and emotional state. Masato was upset when she discovered that Shinji had run away. She looks at his empty room, wondering where he is. Now NERV has dragged Shinji back. Let's see how this scene plays out.
Long time no see.
Yeah,
Do you feel any better after wandering around for 2 days?
I don't know.
The Ava is on standby. Will you pilot it? Or won't you?
You're not going to scold me for running away? Of course you're not. I'm no relation to you, am I? If I say that I won't pilot Unit 1, what are you going to do with it?
I suppose that Ray will do it. You won't pilot it?
It seems a little bit unrealistic for you to force everything on her. Don't worry, I'll pilot it.
But you don't want to do it.
Of course not. It's not something that comes to me naturally. But Ayanami and you and Miss
Stow that line of crap! This has nothing to do with any of us. If you don't like it, get out of here. Just forget all about Ava and us and go back where you came from. We don't need someone with that attitude piloting.
Masato cares about Shinji. She wants him to make his own decisions, not succumb to others' expectations, especially since fighting the angels is incredibly dangerous. From Masato's perspective, Shinji should not be risking his life because he feels obligated to do so. More importantly, Shinji's attitude is likely to get him killed, and Masato does not want that to happen. So Masato yells at Shinji and walks away. This shocks Shinji. He changes his mind and decides not to stay. he formally resigns from NERV. Before Shinji could say goodbye to Masato, he's ushered out of the building by NERV agents. These NERV agents escort Shinji to the train station that will take him to a different town. At the train station, Shinji is surprised to find two of his classmates. Toji Suzuhara, the classmate who beat up Shinji in the previous episode, is one of the classmates. Toji regrets beating up Shinji after he finds out how difficult being an EVA pilot can be, especially how traumatic it is for Shinji. He comes to the train station to try to make amends with Shinji. Toji lets Shinji get even. He also acknowledges that being a pilot is painful, which touches Shinji. The NERV agents remind Shinji that he has to leave soon and pull him towards the train platform. In a moment of desperation, Shinji reveals that he believes that he deserved to be beat up.
I'm the one who deserved to be hit, not you! I'm a coward! I'm dishonest! I'm sneaky! And a wimp!
Don't give us any more.
He has very low self-esteem. He doesn't believe that he deserves friends or close relationships. Shinji does not think he's fit to be a pilot. He only thought because he had to. Back at NERV, Masato realizes that Shinji was leaving because he was afraid of getting hurt emotionally. He had started to become close with Masato and his classmates, but his low self-esteem and lack of social skills hindered him from growing these relationships. I can 100% relate to this. When I was watching Neon Genesis Evangelion, I didn't have many friends. I had no friends at my university. I had friends online, but at the time I didn't consider them real friends since we've never met in person. And I was fine with not having friends. I didn't need other people outside of my family. Getting a degree was more important than having friends or having fun. I just needed to study hard and graduate. And honestly, I was scared. For most of my life, I've had terrible self-esteem. I didn't have many friends most of the time. I did not have my own wants or desires even. I didn't feel like they were worthy of pursuing. I just did what people told me to do. During my freshman year of college, I just wanted to fulfill everyone's expectations of me. Like Shinji at the beginning of the anime. Truthfully, I was scared that if people knew the real me, they wouldn't like me. I feared rejection or not being good enough. I decided not to make friends and reject others before they could reject me. This did not go well naturally. I began to feel lonely. Around this time, I started planning my study abroad trip to Germany. Studying abroad looked great on a resume, and I had always liked traveling. It could have been a great opportunity to find friends. At the time, I thought that my issue with friends so far was because I hadn't met the right people yet. Maybe I would find those people in Germany. But I didn't. Back to the anime. In the previous episode, The Silent Telephone, Masato and another character discussed Shinji's lack of friends and the Hedgehog's dilemma.
Even though a hedgehog may want to become close with another hedgehog, the closer they get, the more they injure each other with their spines. It's the same with some humans. The reason he seems so withdrawn is because he's afraid of being hurt.
Well, he's just going to have to learn someday that part of growing up means finding a way to interact with others while distancing pain.
That scene foreshadows what happens next. While Shinji is still waiting at the train station, Masato realizes that Shinji was acting up because he was getting closer to Masato and his classmates. He was scared of getting close to them and pushed them away as a result. He didn't understand how to be close to them without hurting them.
The hedgehog's dilemma. The closer we become, the more deeply we hurt. Now I understand. I finally understand. He can't let others know how he feels. in any other way.
This scene hit me like a truck. I totally relate with Shinji. While I was in Germany, I felt lonely and miserable. I pushed people away because I was scared and I didn't know how to make or keep friends. But that was entirely my fault. And this episode made me realize why. After watching this episode, I realized that my fear was keeping other people at bay. This episode also showed me how to overcome my fear.
I'm home.
Welcome home.
Here, Shinji chooses to be an EVA pilot. He chooses to try to build his relationship with Masato. He chooses to become friends with his classmates. It's all his choice. This scene, this episode, this series resonates with me to this day. Because while this series is also about loneliness and despair, it is also about personal choice and emotional growth. On March 19th, 2020, I received an email from my university in the United States telling me that I had to return. And if I didn't, I would be unenrolled. I had a scholarship that paid for my tuition, which was put in jeopardy if I became unenrolled. I couldn't risk it. I chose to return to the United States, and I felt like a failure for choosing to do so. The whole trip felt like a failure, to be honest. My study abroad trip to Germany had resulted in nothing tangible. No credits since classes hadn't really started, since I'd arrived early for my German language course. The regular semester wasn't supposed to start until next month, in April, and I hadn't gained any friends either. My graduation date would likely have to be pushed back. We, meaning my mom, would have to pay for the airplane ticket to go back home early. And studying abroad had already been expensive, even with scholarships. All that planning and preparation involved was worthless. All that time and money wasted. When I got that email from the university, I called my mom on the phone and I cried. My mom comforted me. The pandemic was entirely out of my control. None of this was my fault. True, I had wanted to study abroad, but there was no way that I could have anticipated COVID-19. It wasn't my fault, and I wasn't a failure. And the trip wasn't a failure either. Before my study abroad semester started, my mom and I were fortunate enough to travel around Europe. It was an incredible experience. I strengthened my bond with my mom during that trip. I learned about different cultures. I ate really great food, and I drank really good coffee. And when I was quarantined in Germany, I watched Neon Genesis Evangelion, a show that resonated with my own life experiences. I realized that I had been pushing people away because I was afraid. I came to understand that in order to have close relationships, I have to be vulnerable and risk being hurt by another person. Through Shinji, I understood that I needed to improve my own self-worth or continue to be alone. I packed up my dorm room and left for the United States. I had never flown by myself before, but I got home safely despite COVID. When I returned to my mom's house, I was relieved and ecstatic to be reunited with my family. I wound up taking summer and winter classes to make up for my lost semester so I could still graduate on time. I'm sure other international students weren't as lucky as I was and had to push back their graduation date. All in all, my study abroad experience in Germany wasn't useless. It was genuinely life-changing. I had learned so much about myself as a result. I realized that I needed to care about myself. I needed to be vulnerable and reach out to others in order to make friends. I learned that I am resilient in the face of adversity. And these realizations wouldn't have happened without Neon Genesis Evangelion.